Stephen Pearlbinder. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I think it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful program. The exhibition, Affinities for Abstraction, Women Artists on Eastern Long Island from 1950 to 2020, opened last week. I'm thrilled tonight that with us are two artists in the exhibition, Dorothea Rockburne and Virva Hinnemo. And I thought maybe we would start as an introduction with a couple of slides of the installation to give you an overview in case you haven't had a chance to come visit us yet. I will say that we are open 5 days a week. Probably best to register online, then you'll have everything done. We'll have all your contacts and you can come right in. So do go online and see about the registration. We're open from 11 to 5 and closed only Tuesday, Wednesday. So yes, Victor, just go back, just not quite so fast. We'll just go through. Okay, our Affinities for Abstraction, they're going into the first gallery next. This is a first gallery in the room. I'll say about a third of the works are from our collection, which is just wonderful to be able to show those. And the rest are borrowed generously from lenders, artists themselves, from their gallerists. And it's a pretty exciting, I think it's a thrilling lineup. There are 50 artists, 42 artists represented, and about 50 works. So it's a great overview. Next. This is in fact Dorothea Rockburne's work. In the center there between Amy Silman and Nanette Carter, this is the cross is in, Dorothea. The cross is in the center, Tintoretto, and this beautiful work from 1989 that is in the parish collection. Next. This is the eastern end of that room. Beautiful Grace Hartigan, also Mary Abbott painting. Next. This is Virva Hinnemo on the far wall to the west there. A beautiful piece called My Studio on the right, also shown with Jacqueline Humphreys in Mercedes Matter. As you can tell, this is cross-generational, we might say, installation. We have artists, the oldest born in 1889, that's Anne Ryan, and the youngest born in 1976. So about 3 generations of women working on the East End painting, I like to say either for a weekend, a season, or a lifetime. Next. And this room, say the 5 names, Joan Snyder, from left to right, Lee Krasner, Pat Steer, Hedda Stern, and Victoria Barr. Quite a beautiful room, all of them, if I may say so myself. Next. Yeah. And this is left to right is Elaine de Kooning, Gertrude Green, Helen Frankenthaler, and Natalie Edgar. It's the other side of the same room. So I don't want to discourage anyone from coming to see them in real life, as we say now, and look forward to seeing you in the galleries. So by way of introduction to Dorothea and to Virva, I'm going to ask each to speak to us briefly, or not so briefly, as you wish. Dorothea, will you, by way of introduction, I will say a high point of my career was working on a retrospective of Dorothea's work, which was shown at the parish in 2011. Can you believe that's 10 years ago, Dorothea?
No, I can't.
It's like, why? It seems like only yesterday. It was, I think it was in the historic building on Job's Lane, and believe me, that space never looked better. Beautiful, beautiful installation. Dorothea was born in Montreal, Canada. I came to this country to attend Black Mountain College. Her teachers in Montreal had said, best that you go on from here. She had an incredible classical education in art at the Beaux-Arts. And but she did come to Black Mountain, where she widened her perspective on the world, most especially with the extraordinary mathematician Max Dane, who, when Dorothea said she didn't understand what was going on in his class, he said, "Come with me, we'll walk in nature, you will see mathematics and beauty." And she went from there. So Dorothea, let me not tell your whole life story. Welcome, and will you give us a little opening statement, or?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, for one of the things that I started to learn when I was 18 under Max Dane was a concept called knot theory, and that's K-N-O-T, and most of my work ever since then is in some way, or rather enveloped knot theory, and this is called a trefoil knot. And I'm also at the moment working on an exhibition for the David Nolan Gallery, which is at 24 East 81st Street in Manhattan. And the exhibition will be October and November of next year. I think it's what date is it in October?
October 9th.
October 9th till
December
11th, till December 11th. And there's a beautiful kind of story going on there. David and I have been sort of waltzing around for a lot of years. And I was going to show with him in Chelsea, and he moved. And oddly, after several false starts, oddly enough, he ended up in what I refer to as the Bikert building, because I started out showing on the second floor of the Bikert gallery at that same address, and now I'm on the 4th floor in David's gallery, and it is so sort of, I'm 88 this year, and I love the symmetry of it, and I love the symmetry of ending up exhibiting where I started out. It has a certain beautiful resonance for me, and this is a trefoil knot, and all of this work that will be in this exhibition is trefoil knots. Beautiful. The copper wire is a trefoil knot, and the knots are continuous. In order to work with knot theory, you're dealing with continuous loop of some sort or other.
Dorothea, what is the material behind the
chipboard? Chipboard, which is a paper product all my life.
All your life, right?
Yeah, you were very familiar with it, Alicia. It's kind of hard as hell to get now, though.
And is it painted in any way, or?
Well, the panel in front has been stained with crude oil and covered with a glue, so it's quite shiny. And the white chipboard behind is obviously being painted with white enamel.
And the size of approximately is 2 by 3, or? No, bigger.
God, I don't know. I'm sorry. Okay.
That's all right. That's all right.
That size is up for you, but I'm not.
No.
Well, I don't want to, just say something that is inaccurate.
No. Sorry, that's all right. Oh, this is beautiful.
Thank you.
And these will be shown, just go back, Victor, if you would. Thank you. These will be shown at David Nolan's in October. How thrilling.
Along with some sculpture and some other work.
All new.
All new, yeah. Yes, I seem to be doing 3-dimensional sculpture in my old age. I don't know how that's working exactly, but it's all knot theory.
It's extraordinary, Dorothea, and you will in October be having a birthday as well. To talk about extraordinary.
Yes, I will. Exactly. I'll be 18. Yeah.
Did you want, you had written me a note earlier today. Did you want to?
I want to read something.
Would you?
I wrote something just generally about where I am in my life and my thinking a lot. And I find that I'm not so involved with the invisibility of women in art, because thank God it's changing. And so I have, I love it that, the recognition of women in art, but also women by themselves in art. Women always look toward men, and they painted as men when I was young. And all of that has changed. Women are doing whatever the hell they want to do now. I love it, because art should be about freedom. But I did write this statement, which is about actually being an artist and how that is for me. I want to state that experience in art for me is the product. I love looking at my work, and it has a physical form, but the real product is experience. Today, the issues that are most close to my heart are not solely the issues which relate to women artists being recognized. Great art from Egypt to France to America has always dealt with the issues of human experience and that registration on the soul. This collective knowledge seems to have its own history. Of course, the methodology for getting to this poignancy in art making has been in part realism, cubism, minimalism, and whatever else. However, the fact is that we as human beings living long or short lives are born into the world with amazing abilities to understand and express ourselves. From childhood on, this gift seems to be challenged and challenged and enlarged by life itself. Understanding and allowing those feelings to come to fruition in artwork is, in my experience, a mighty task. This self-expression does not lend itself to being commodified. Once I was commissioned to make a painting of a certain size to accommodate a residence. I never could do it. What happens to me, and I think most artists, depends on a deepness of understanding, experience, and soul searching, which does not accommodate itself to external demands. My definition of the soul in art is the ability to reflect in artwork the collective emotional vocabularies which we are born with and which emerge throughout our lives. More and more the work of younger women artists are being shown and honored. At the moment, for instance, I'm in an exhibition at the Pompidou of 100 women. Now, I'm not a young artist, but it's what's going on in the world. And I mean, what a change from when I was young. And after 3 months, when it's finished exhibiting at the Pompidou, it will travel to the Guggenheim Bilbao. Of course, Alicia and the parish seem always to be at the top of the felt curve of society. And I'm very proud to be part of this exhibition.
Oh, Dorothea, that's lovely. I honestly had not heard about the exhibition at the Pompidou, which is again about abstraction, as I noted on the internet when
Yes.
And this is quite a cavalcade of artists, women artists of the 20th century too.
And at the Pompidou, I mean, that was always a bastion of not showing women or buying women or anything. So this is a huge breakthrough.
Precisely. Shall we just get on a plane and go? Wouldn't that be fun?
Wouldn't I love?
I know. But you're busy working, right? You can't. You have your show. Thank you. That was a beautiful statement. I remember once asking you if it were difficult for young women or women artists when you were coming up, and you at that point said it was the complete, it was just the invisibility. You were not seen. Yes. But times are changing, as you.
They are. They have changed.
Yeah.
It's happened. Yeah.
They have. All right, Virva, I know we have some images of your work. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. I did not prepare anything, but I'll give a short intro of myself. It seems that I am the baby of this show that I'm in. I'm very honored to be the
I
young.
didn't reveal that, but yes, you are.
And it's an honor. It's an honor to be here with both of you, with you and Dorothea tonight. So thank you for having me. Just very briefly, so that I don't repeat myself to those of you who know me, I was born in Finland in 1976. You can do the mathematics on how old I am. And I grew up in Sweden and, just outside of Stockholm, the capital of Sweden. And for as long as I can remember, I've been drawing and painting. It was all I ever wanted to do. And I guess I came to the US in the late 90s, lived in New York City for 10 years. My husband, George, and I have 3 boys, and we now live on Long Island. We've been here 10 years, which is amazing to me. It's really it's flown by. I work out of a small basement studio in Springs, and I'm surrounded by the woods. Mm-hmm. And so as far as my work goes, I really came out of figuration. I've always liked to draw from life, but more and more, for many years now, I've been working abstractly, but I do feel a great influence, visually a great influence by my surroundings. Here we have a painting called 4 Feet, which was in a show at Anita Rogers Gallery a few years ago. These are unusual because I made them with acrylic on canvas. I really like to work with oils otherwise, but I was trying very hard to make acrylic paintings. Most of my paintings, I started with a lot of color and all of them turned black and white by the time I'd finished. And this particular painting, I was thinking about the title, which was also the title of the show, 4 Feet. And the story behind that was just my son Vigo and his cousin were over Christmas created a small band of 2 people, a 2-person band. And so I thought they should call themselves 4 Feet since there were 2 of them. And again, simply put, 4 feet all together. I was also thinking of other things where you need 4 feet. A friend of mine loves to dance. Oftentimes you need a partner, something you're doing together, 4 feet. And for myself, it happens to do with martial arts. I also love doing martial arts. And in order to do those kinds of things, I need a partner to work with. So 4 feet is just something about a kind of partnership, a kind of working together with somebody else. That is not how I work in the studio, however. I like to be on my own in the studio. I really like to have peace and quiet around me. The other painting next to it, Untitled, and this goes with the article that came out in the Sag Harbor Express the other day. It's an homage to Louise Fishman, Square for LF. And it may not look like her work, but I think when I was working on this, and I made this in Sweden right before, just a couple of years before we moved to Springs. And it was the first time I was working on linen. And Louise Fishman I'm just a huge fan of her work. I've been, watching her for years, and she was on my mind. I think in all of the work I make, it's all about the brushstroke. Like Dorothea says, I'm completely in agreement with her that for me also, a lot about the process of how I make a work is the experience for me. Obviously, the finished product is also an experience, yes. But it's a different kind of experience. And maybe we'll switch to the next slide. Just keep going. when
Virva,
yeah.
not to interrupt, but I read, you once said, I ask a lot from those who look at my work, which I love. All artists should ask a lot of those of us who, but what made you feel that way?
I think especially in this day and age that we live in, I mean, I think that there is a going back to looking at things more slowly and wanting time to slow down. I think this is happening for many of us. We've gotten so sped up. And it's hard to look at art if you don't have some time and some trust that you're going to get something out of the experience. I think people actually go to art museums and think, I'm not going to be able to enjoy this. I won't be able to see anything. And I think I'm asking people to slow down. You know, if they want to. I'm not asking for anything, but I think to really view something, and this is maybe where the experience of the actual artwork for me is incredible, because I think artworks, you can live with an artwork for 10, 20, 30 years. And for 10 years of that time, you might look at a specific artwork and see one thing. And then you wake up one day and you look at that same artwork and you see something entirely different, you know, and it just changes in front of your eyes. And no one's touched it. Nobody went there and put a new brush mark on while you were sleeping. It's just, maybe we change, you know, maybe we've really been looking that long and that slow to see a kind of magic happen, to see something change. This small painting is so simple. Maybe this is one of the more, you know, or should I say less abstract paintings. You know, you could really maybe begin to see a kind of landscape or figure ground, a window, for example. But it doesn't have to be. And I think it's open-ended enough that there's a lot of interpretation that can come. And that interpretation is the long, slow look where you get to experience something over a period of time. Does that?
Perfect.
Okay.
And the painting is called Looking.
Exactly. I just saw that too. Of course. Looking. Yeah. And I mean, I think for all of us, whatever our you know, subject is, or however we work, we do spend a lot of time looking. You know, it's and when I look at Dorothea's work, something just struck me now. I feel like her work is so generous because it really shows a whole world and a kind of completeness, something very vast, and it's like it's all there for me to see if I want to look at it, if I want to see it and experience it. I'm not saying that I don't do that, but especially in some of the work that I've been making recently, I feel like I'm making more of an obstructed view. So I'm forcing you to kind of peek through something to find what it is that might be there. But I do think that Dorothea's work is incredibly generous in that way, that it's just so visible to me, you know, that I can really get a very full experience when I see her work.
I've always thought of Dorothy's work, now that you say that, Virva is presenting the world in Max Dane's terms, in the sense of revealing the structure and the beauty behind everything in nature, which is, of course, you know, created with certain very strict rules about how it comes into being.
Yeah.
Well, these are beautiful.
So I wanted to include these because the painting at the parish is almost entirely black and white, and these are very recent paintings, and you know, perhaps inspired by spring, finally, you know, adding some color. These are small paintings, and I don't have that much to say about them, but I do. Again, I'm thinking about the obstructed view, the way that I feel like there's at least sometimes a kind of inside outside happening, that I feel a sense of what might be within and then peeking out into a different kind of world on the outside. Again, not necessarily representational, but there's a kind of figure ground and a space. I think, again, for me, space is hugely important. I think I'm really old-fashioned in my view of painting in a way, because I think about composition and color and drawing and space and air, you know, all of these kinds of elements. But, you know, again, when I go into the studio, ultimately, what I need to get from my experience as the painter, the maker, is that I want to surprise myself. And that's not always easy to keep up with, but I do need that for myself. Yeah. I'm trying to think if, there's one thing. I'll add one more thing. I don't want to talk too long, but
Okay.
a couple of years ago, a show I did, I was thinking a lot about cave painting.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pretending that I was a cave woman making work on the wall.
Yes.
And, you know, that may not be the most normal thought, but I was really playing around with this idea. And I don't know if this is true. Maybe someone can correct me later if I'm wrong. But I thought I'd read at the time something about how there was a possible idea that the imagery came before the verbal language for people, and that we were actually making images on cave walls before we really learned to speak. And to me, that would be an incredible truth if it is in fact true. And even if it's not, I love the idea. Even if I made it up, I love the idea that imagery could be so strong, so powerful, and so important that it may have preceded the verbal language.
Exactly. I love that thought, which fits in very well with, Elaine de Kooning had a long involvement after the discovery of the prehistoric cave paintings in Lascaux and Altamira. She was fascinated by those, and for a very long time that inspired her work.
Yeah.
Dorothea, thank you, Virva. Thank you for that. I feel like we've been in the studio with both of you, and that's an extraordinary way to feel. Dorothea, if you want to, I don't want you to tell a lot of tales out of school, but you knew some of the women who are invoked as sort of the founders in the ABEX. Certainly, Mary Gabriel did quite a number on the 9th Street Women. And did you read that book? Probably not.
It's not my kind of reading.
You did. I mean, Joan Mitchell famously said once what she wanted to paint like a man, which is something I think you have said you never aspired to do. I mean, have
A nanosecond.
But was that, from your observation, maybe over the 50s and 60s, was that a pretty predominant?
Women in that book.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the life of a woman artist at that time was really dreadful, because there was talk about invisibility, and those women became very hardened in their relationships and in their manner. And I completely understood that, because and there was a lot going on about sexuality at that time, who slept with who, and men conquering and all that kind of bullshit, and the women, with the exception of Lee Krasner, I found very, very harsh. Lee, I thought, was superb. She was smart, she was generous, she was funny, she was fairly incredible. I didn't know her until after Jackson Pollock was dead. I went to visit her in Queen, on Long Island. And she was pretty racked with arthritis at that time, by that time, but she was just terrific. And I loved her. People wonder why she promoted Jackson so much and not herself. But I think it was not selflessness, but more a respect for art itself. She was just terrific, but the other women in the 10th Street book were, in my experience, extremely harsh and strident, and they were, going to get heard, whatever it meant. And I don't know, for some reason, I was sort of born with self-confidence. There's this family story where I was about 5 or 6 and I turned around and I said, either you call me Dorothea or I won't answer you. And I didn't. It was one of those family stories. So I sort of, had some sense of who I was, and it's really hard to roll over me.
It's a wonderful picture.
I wasn't mouse quality ever.
There's a wonderful picture of you. You must have been about 3, and you had 2 lovely older siblings, a boy and a girl, and they were a bit older, yes?
Yes,
A little bit older.
3 and 6 years older.
Yeah. And this lovely, and there you were, and they were obviously older, and you were littler. But you had this expression on your face like, don't count me out, folks. I know they're older, and one's a boy. And, I thought that was you. I loved including that in the chronology. I thought, Dorothy, we must show the determination.
Alicia did for the parish exhibition is the only book that's ever been done on me. Dia is in the process of doing something now, but nobody ever did a book. And I could have had books done, but I would have had to pay to have them done. And there's something about me and my self-confidence. I just didn't feel, I felt like that was publicity and not a book about my work. And I didn't do it. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you waited. It was an enormous privilege to work with you on that. We had some interesting times. Very proud of that. Yes, we get calls regularly.
Yeah.
I'm delighted to hear about Dia working on that. And you have an extraordinary work there on view, which I think everyone who hasn't been up to Beacon in the last
rooms at Dia Beacon, for those of you who might be interested. And it's early work. And although I installed it 3 years ago, 4 years ago, something like that. But it was interesting to me to re-look at my thinking, because I was using equations and I was directly saying this board is A prime, this board is B prime. I was substituting materials for the symbols. And that was a great experience to relive, because the math that I've been at it for years. So my math, and I have a degree, I have a doctorate in mathematics. The math that I use is even the aspect of string theory that I'm using in this book, in this work, it's complex mathematics, whereas in the DHO, you use a paper as functioning as a bracket in an equation. And it's just one-to-one material exchanges. And so that's kind of sexy in a way.
Sorry. It's come at a point where Dia looked at what they had done brilliantly for many, many years, and a new director said, well, this has been very nice, but where are the women who were right there doing the exact same, if you want to call it minimalist, broadly stroked, but the work that was very different from other work going on. So that's been a wonderful.
Minimalism was a male term made by a male critic.
Yeah.
Oh, that old song.
So often the case.
Yeah. And going back to those early 10th Street women, I mean, when I was young, I thought that the men I knew were really interested in my work because did they ever fake it? And all they wanted to do was get into my pants, of course. And, you know, that's a very strange thing when you're working like hell and you're doing radical new work. And their way of being competitive is to not acknowledge the work.
Mhm.
It was tough. I
Mhm.
can't imagine what those 10th Street women went through, you know, it's
Yeah.
stuff, no. But
Yeah.
I am tenacious. If not anything, I am tenacious.
Yeah. Virva, I know you once said everyone has insecurities, but you think that you somewhat counter those with just what Dorothy is talking about, a stubbornness.
I think, yeah, I mean, I
You
think
have to.
I think you can both be insecure, but at the same time have a drive that takes over. You know,
Mhm.
you may have a fear of speaking in public, but there's a drive that, you know, lets you still sit in front of the camera and speak to people. I think there you find a love for things, and that's a higher love than, you know, it's more powerful than the fear, I guess, than the fear factor.
But Virva, what is amazing to me is that you're making this beautiful work from nature and that you've had 3 children. Now, being pregnant and having a baby, in my limited experience, I only had one, means being sick for 2 years. Yeah. It's like getting up every day and feeling sick. And because it's a year after the child is born, it takes your body to go back that far. And then there's having a child changes your life forever. You are not the self-centered person you were before the baby, you know? No. And so for you to do this, you know, come to this kind of evolvement is I can't say how I can say, but it's somehow important to me to know about it. Yeah.
Right. Well, and maybe that's the part of being a woman, that oftentimes, whether you have children or not, you know, oftentimes you have a different role in life, and you're expected maybe to do and be able to handle certain things while you're trying to be
like with the nasals and all those things, you know.
and that's I mean, I'm lucky I have the support of my husband and my family, but certainly my oldest son was born my last year of college in art school, and I built a diaper changing table in my studio at Parsons School of Design. That was the first thing I did. And I was asked if perhaps I should take the year off and come back and finish my degree another year, and I knew I would not be able to do that. So I took 2 weeks off after John was born, and I went back and finished my theses and got through my MFA.
Congratulations. Not easy to do, very hard to do.
It's hard for me to remember that time. You know, it was a very intense period, but I knew I would not go back if I took a break.
But also, when most people are taking time off from their job to have a baby, they're getting paid.
Right. Well, again, I had a very supportive husband, and I would not have been able to do that otherwise.
Yeah.
So, but I think, you know, in the long run, first of all, you know, everybody has a different reaction, but I don't think I have many obstacles in life, but I don't always pay attention to how I'm feeling, so I can keep moving forward. Yeah. It's not necessarily a great thing, but I do always keep moving forward until I collapse at some point, and then I sort of pick myself up again. But I wouldn't be the painter I am without my family, without my children, without my husband. You know, I'm very fortunate.
Yeah. You were, Dorothea, of course, a single mother. I remember your story of you were downtown where nobody in Christine's school lived. Canal Street. I remember that loft, 4 flights up.
Chambers Street.
What?
Chambers Street.
Chambers. I'm sorry, of course, Chambers, way down.
Yeah.
And you told the story of going up. Christine was in a wonderful school on the Upper East Side. And first of all, to go pick her up, you had to do what? Totally change your outfit.
Yeah.
Just to be seen picking her up. Hello. But think of those years. Tough. Tough. Yeah. Anytime. Yeah. I think we have a question here. Let's see. We have two questions. I think they're both about process. Yes. Jason wants to know, Dorothea, are the knot strands on the wonderful trefoil, those are wire?
Yeah, copper wire.
Copper wire, and they're not painted in any way. Like it's the copper that's showing. Okay.
And it's treated copper wire, so it won't change color.
They're beautiful. She also had a question for you, Virva. Do you rework the paint? It looks very spontaneous and untouched, made with one big gesture after a lot of thought. How is that?
Yeah. So yes, with the acrylic paintings, I rework them and layered them more slowly. With the oil paintings, they're very, when I'm moving quickly, and then I put them up and I watch them for quite a long time before I know that it's time for me to make another move. But they're pretty quick paintings. But with everything I do, even when I work on cardboard, sometimes I'll work on something, and I can sometimes spend a week looking at something just out of the corner of my eye and sort of speaking the artwork, maybe kind of whispering things to me. And I'm like, no, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. You know, I'll be working on something else. And then when I know the moment is right, I see something or something catches my eye, I go back to the piece and I can finish it in one go sometimes, depending. It's very intuitive work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't really paint with my head. I paint more with my gut, I think. And I'm terrible at math. Sorry.
You working on the floor?
Everybody's been poisoned in math except me. I never had it in high school. I didn't have any in
The idea of math, and I think
I'm a genius teacher, and so I'm not poisoned. I find it exciting still to this day. It's exciting.
I have, Dorothea, I have teachers talk to me about math in a way that I really could get excited about it, but only very few.
Look up knot theory, Google it. It's fun. And simple to understand. You don't have to know a lot of mathematics.
I'm writing it down right now.
Yeah. It's on YouTube too.
Here's an artist who has a practical question. Do you have your studio light? You referred to a basement studio. Do you have natural light? And this artist is also thinking about a basement studio and how that would work. There you are. Okay, we're right there.
So yeah, one side of the studio has some natural light, and George and I share a studio, but I have this sort of front area. So as long as it's pretty nice outside, I do get enough natural light that I can work. I don't like to use, any electric lights when I work if I can help it.
Yeah. Someone has wondered if your children, your child, your daughter they must feel very proud of you. Children of the Beats didn't. Well, they were poets, but do your children share your love of painting? Either, I would say, looking at painting or painting themselves.
Well, my daughter has a superb eye, but she writes.
Right.
She never went into painting.
Right. I dare say, your progeny like mine went to museums a good deal or looked at, were dragged around.
Great Christine store, if you'll bear with me. Well, that's my daughter's name.
Good.
And that is that when she was about 5 years old, there was a fabulous Jackson Pollock exhibition at MoMA, and I took her to see it. And she looked at it very carefully and she said, "This is what they won't let us do in school." which, you know, as a parent, you just adore those moments.
That is wonderful. That's a New Yorker cartoon. She must have been looking at the New Yorker. Oh, how about your boys, Virva? Do you?
Well, none of them are painters, but they all have they all made beautiful drawings when they were younger. I mean, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And then they sort of stopped. Maybe the 14-year-old still will when I ask him to. And he's a fantastic draftsman. He makes beautiful, beautiful work. They're all into
Interesting.
music and, you know, they're all artistic in ways. And I think if I make a drawing from life, they can appreciate it maybe more easily than the abstract work, which is interesting. And also because I teach a lot of children, and sometimes I test them by putting up work on the studio wall when the class comes in. I use the studio a little bit as a classroom. And one day I had put up all abstract works except one, which was clearly like a driveway with a car and something that I'd painted many years ago. And it was the only painting that they reacted to, which I found fascinating.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The other day, I had a friend, an artist, dropped by, a wonderful artist, a male, who he wanted to see the show. He is extremely knowledgeable about art and art history. And he stopped in front of the Mary Abbott's painting, which was one of the ones that came up when we were looking. He was absolutely mesmerized by the painting, thought it was so extraordinarily accomplished, and was so sort of, you know, he said it was very poignant to him that he could look at a painting by a woman of such accomplishment in that era, right, the contemporary of all the artists we talked about, and not know of her, that she was never in the history books.
Yeah.
Never, you know, the sort of
In
the
this-
five were the ones who made the show, you know, in many ways. And I love that he just said it was poignant in a way that this is the story, and was so glad to see the work, would, you know, look at it more. And but that is the problem, you know? And it's changed, as you say, Dorothea. It's fundamentally, in very many ways, changed, and we see much
and
more
it's changing all the time.
all the time. Yeah.
I mean, like, this white male bastion stuff, I don't know where the hell that came from. You know,
Yeah.
So, I mean, so I know Black artists who are fabulous, who are completely ignored. And
Completely ignored. Yeah. Yeah.
so it's nice that
Well, it is a reckoning.
I also
I know you teach a lot of young, probably boys and girls, but maybe predominantly girls. Is it?
More boys than you might think.
Oh, no? Okay.
I mean, it's not 50-50, but it's, I do get some really wonderful young male students in my classes.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very energetic painters. I love teaching children, especially, I think that age group between, 7 and 9 is so much fun because they're kind of old enough to have a great discussion. They haven't been totally ruined yet by life. They're curious. They love to get their hands dirty. And it's just, there's a kind of liberty. I really enjoy, it's very inspiring to work with them. Very inspiring. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, this has been, I think here's some more questions. Now here's Deb, who recalls hearing about the Fibonacci sequence as an adult and crying at the beauty of nature and its mathematical reflection in all things. I think we should learn more about math and its relationship to nature and the sequences of life. Young girls in the 50s and 60s were great at math, but shrunk and became timid in the sciences and mathematics by high school. Good for you, she says. Yeah, certainly the Fibonacci what is, for those of us who don't know, and I probably couldn't explain it very well, Dorothea, it's the,
Every day. I don't want to go into that.
oh, all right, but it's the spot, you know, basically the spiral, which we all see in shells and everything. Well, I do think those things are changing with young women, and particularly now with the computer sciences, and seems to be pretty evenly.
Things are changing and some things are not.
Uh,
And that, the knots I find disturbing, and I see them amongst my friends. Some of my,
Really?
and there is no, often women do not have a sense of their personal power, and they can be accomplished and so on, but the idea that they are sexually powerful has not been taught to them.
mhm.
I grew up French. different set of, you know, rules.
Oh, the French, exactly. Well, I think that's some questions. This is about all our time. I do hope your thoughts on 2 years of illness with pregnancy aren't widely known to young women, because it may jeopardize the continuation of the
Right.
the race. We do have a duty still in that respect to continue the species. It's a journey. Let's face it, it certainly is. How can I thank you enough, my dear friends, Dorothea and Virva? Just as I have a lot of, I know you both well, I have an enormous affection for you, and just happy that you could be with me today and be with us with your work at the parish now through July 18th. So thank you.
Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you, Alicia.
All
I
right.
hope to meet you, Dorothea.
Everyone. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.